Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim. Today, I want to talk about games as art and the meaning of games, but it's going to be a little rambling because I'm going to tell you how I got to this topic. In the last couple weeks, been the anniversary of two different friends of mine, Brian and Steve, passing away in the last within the last 3 years. They both died of cancer, different cancers. They both lived on opposite coasts of the U.S. Both of them I had met through online groups before we actually met in person. And neither of them knew what I did for a living, but both of them were big video game players. And Steve, especially, was excited when he found out what I had done because he was a huge, huge Fallout fan. He would play and replay the Fallout games, and he would never be a bad person. In fact, if he ever did anything that led to a bad result, he would reload an earlier save game and play again because he wanted everybody to be happy and he wanted to be nice. And he was like that in real life too. But I just remember just how much he loved the games. And so it was not a surprise to me when his widower, Matthew, sent me a link to the recent photos that leaked from the Fallout TV show. And he wanted to know what I thought of it. And of course, I immediately shared it with Leonard. And to say we picked through these photos is probably an understatement. But it's interesting because the way we went through them were very different. And just so you know, and people have asked, and I've said this on here, and I've said it in comments, and I'll say it again. I have nothing to do with the TV show. I'm not involved. I have nothing to do with Fallout today. The industry does not work that way. You can create something, but you don't necessarily own it, and you certainly don't control it. So, to me, I'm just looking at these photos as any other fan would, and I'm comparing it to what I know about the game. So I look at things, and I saw something like Hawthorne Labs, a division of Vault-Tec, and I'm like, was that in the game? I thought it looked pretty good. The Super Duper Mart, the Red Rocket station, the vault, especially the railings, the vents, the vault suits look good. I mean, we never really defined if they were cloth or plastic or something. I know there was a jumpsuit extruder in one of the vaults that I had written up when I made a big list of all the different vaults that existed and the different experiments that were being run. I made that sometime between Fallout 1 and 2. There was a suit extruder. But they look good. They look kind of like what I imagined they would. The Pip-Boys look really good. But of course, Leonard's take on it is really different. As an artist and as an artist who created a lot of these looks, I think he has a much more critical eye towards these things. And he was pointing out things like, oh, they're using this version of power armor. I wish they'd used the classic. What is that? The T-51, I think. And I think I noticed that in passing, but to me it was more of a, hey, this kind of looks like what I imagine a post-apocalyptic city and post-apocalyptic wastes would look like. So, of course, the fact that we were looking at these differently made me think about the meaning of games and what games and books and movies are all entertainment, but they have meaning too. I think they're art, and I think they have meaning. But I think games, especially because they're interactive, the meaning is more what you bring to it as much as what the creators intended for the meaning to be. And I think because of that, it kind of breaks down to two things I'm saying here. One, a game can mean different things to different people. So when I see people talking about what things mean in Fallout, none of you are wrong. We can talk about what I intended or what another one of the designers intended or what Bethesda now intends or whatever. But at the end of the day, the meaning is the meaning that you brought to it. Because nobody plays the game quite like you do. Nobody, therefore, has the same experience that you do. And that's a huge way that games are different than books and movies. Everybody who sees the same movie saw the same sequence of events. Everybody who reads a book read the same sequence of events. That is not true in a lot of games. It's certainly not true in any of my games. That's why I like nonlinear games. But because of that, not only a different sequence of events, but different events themselves can happen. I think that the meaning of a game is highly dependent on the player. So that has a corollary that I don't think people think about a lot, which means no one can force meaning into a game. Not you, not any of your friends, not any of the people online, not any of the reviewers, and certainly not the creators. The only meaning in that game is the one that was created by you playing it. And I think all those different groups I mentioned will have very different experiences and backgrounds that they bring to the game, and so games can just mean wildly different things to them. And I think this whole argument about whether games are art is kind of silly. I can see why people may have thought that 20 years ago. I still think they were wrong, but I can see in the era of Atari and Nintendo games, people going, yeah, I don't think these are art. I think they're wrong, but I don't see how anyone can look at modern games and go, these are not works of art. They're beautiful. They're well crafted. There's a lot of time and thought put into them. I think that some games 50 or 100 years from now are really going to be held up as works of art. And like all art, the game itself isn't and I'm going to quote Buddhism here, the game isn't the path to meaning. The game points to the path. And it's up to you whether you want to take that path. So I think that's all I wanted to say. I mean, like you, I hope the Fallout TV show is good, and I hope it's respectful of the original games. We will see. I've seen a lot of modern TV shows, like, to mention a few, Foundation, Rings of Power, Wheel of Time, stray quite a far away from the source material, especially foundational elements of the source material. So I'm bracing myself for this not being what I exactly expected, but I'm more than happy with whatever they're going to show. Plus, I've mentioned I'm a huge Community fan. Walter Goggins was in an episode of Community, my favorite episode, the one where they read Pierce's will. He's the lead in this Fallout TV show. I've never seen a picture of him in the gear or anything, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I have to think, I don't know if there's an afterlife, but if there is, part of me thinks Steve's going to be watching this TV show, and I think he's going to love it. So, he had his own take on Fallout, but I think he's going to like that. I think he's going to like the TV show. Anyway, that's enough rambling for me for today.